Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Decatorish.com forums. This is going to be the forum for DeKalb County Board of Education District 2. My name is Dan Wisenhunt. I'm the editor and publisher of Decatorish.com. Thank you for joining us. Our candidates today are Stephen Bowden. Stephen, how are you this morning?
Good. Thanks for having me, Dan.
Thanks for joining us. Wendy Hamilton. Wendy, how are you?
I'm great, Dan. Thank you again for having us.
Thank you for joining us. Whitney McGinnis, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And Candace McKinley. Candace, how are you this morning?
I'm good, thank you.
As I said, this is the Decatorish.com Twitch forum. One of the unique parts of this format is you can ask questions in the chat. So if you want to ask a question, create an account, give us a follow, and put a question in the chat, and we'll try to get to it. I have my own list of questions right here. The way it's going to work is we're going to give each candidate 2 minutes to make an opening statement, and then we're going to go into our questions. We're going to rotate who starts each question. Each candidate is going to have 2 minutes to answer those questions, and then we're going to close with a 2 minute statement from each candidate. The forum is going to last about an hour. So with that formality out of the way, I wanted to first thank everyone for showing up because this is a real opportune moment to be having a debate about DeKalb County schools. So let us start with our opening statements, and we are going to start with Stephen Bowden. Stephen, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad to be here today, and thanks everyone for tuning in. So my name's Stephen Bowden, and I'm a DeKalb dad. I'm a father of 3 school-age children. I have a 4th grader that's in the system and fraternal twins that'll be starting kindergarten in August. And I'm running for this position because the schools they're just not set up for success. I want to make sure that the schools create an environment that allows our students to succeed. You know, we currently have a divided school board that seems to continually separate our students by north and south. And our school board chair has been quoted several times as saying such. As the representative, I'll value our parents as the critical stakeholders that they are. I mean, it's no secret that our school buildings are in need of repair and updates, and it's, you know, everyone's seen Druid Hills High School in the news lately, but it's not just Druid Hills. There's schools across our system that need to be updated, and our teachers deserve a place to go and be able to focus on teaching. Our students deserve a safe place that they can go, and that will set them up for success. And really what my goal is going to be if I'm elected is I want to put our children first. The school board really has not been making decisions with the children in mind and keeping these students first, and that's going to be a focus of mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Wendy Hamilton, opening statement. You have 2 minutes.
Great. Good morning. Thank you all for tuning in. My name is Wendy Hamilton. I am the mother of a 3rd grader who happens to be at Fernbank Elementary. We are there via school choice. I've seen the good and bad of DeKalb. Our first year at DeKalb at Laurel Ridge for pre-K under Principal Kyle was amazing. Kindergarten was another story. The district brought in a new superintendent. I'm sorry, the district brought in a new principal for the school. My daughter has life-threatening food allergies, and you would expect it would be the same from pre-K to kindergarten in terms of how allergies are mitigated. It wasn't. I spent the entire year getting gaslit and bullied from the principal, only to find out that our daughter's EpiPen was nowhere to be found when needed. We moved schools. We're over at Fernbank Elementary now. I can definitely see what a big difference having a supportive administrator has on the school. I've seen the conditions inside of Laurel Ridge, which led me to be concerned about the pandemic and how our district would approach things. Myself and a group of other concerned parents and teachers got together and created the Coalition for a Safe DSDC return. I've been advocating for the last couple of years, not just for my school or my cluster, but for the entire district to have safe, equitable schools and proper learning environment with hand soap.
Thank you. Whitney McGinnis, you have 2 minutes. You're on mute, Whitney. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
2 minutes for your opening statement.
Good morning, everyone. And Dan, I just wanted to thank you again for putting this on. Like we were saying, it is really hard to find good information on local candidates. So my name is Whitney McGinnis. I live in North Decatur with my family. I currently work as a grants manager for a domestic violence nonprofit. And I also serve as the vice president of my neighborhood civic association. I have more than 15 years of public sector work experience and a master's degree in public policy from Georgia State University. So this means I understand how complex bureaucracies work, and I know how to pull the levers of government in a way that leads to real positive change. So like many parents, my involvement in the school started when my daughter, who is now in the 6th grade, started kindergarten. Since that time, I've served on several PTA committees, volunteered to stock backpacks for the homeless children attending our schools, and I also led an advocacy effort that resulted in several $1 million worth of HVAC repairs at 7 DeKalb schools. Currently, I serve on the Principals Advisory Council at Druid Hills Middle, and just last week, I joined the Druid Hills and Cross Keys students protesting for better conditions at their schools. I'm running for this seat because I believe that a strong public school system is vital to the health of our economy and democracy. And when Marshall Orson told me that he would not be running for re-election, I knew that District 2 would need a candidate with a proven track record and clear vision to fill his seat.
Thank you. Candace McKinley, you have 2 minutes to make an opening statement.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for tuning in. This doesn't happen every day, but I'm so excited to be here and let you know that I'm a mom first, educator second, and an advocate third. And so that's a unique perspective that I bring hopefully to the board. I've been a mom of 2 for a long time now. It's one of my hardest jobs, but we transitioned to North Decatur from the east side of DeKalb out of necessity. And I don't say that lightly because other candidates have said that we have an equity issue in DeKalb, and I lived it. Once I moved to the north side of DeKalb, my children were afforded the quality education and high access to quality education that I expected of the county that I didn't see on the south side of DeKalb or towards the east side. And with that experience, I said, I'm just going to be engaged. And I came from Atlanta Public Schools as a 1st and 2nd grade teacher. And also now I have been litigating cases as an attorney. So not only have I seen it, lived it, and experienced the divides here in DeKalb, but I've also advocated to hopefully bridge those divides, serving as the governance chair of our International Community School, being involved in our PTA at Druid Hills Middle School, and now at the high school. I've been at the high school now for 6 years. One of my children graduated through the pandemic last year. So I've seen it, lived it, and felt it. And I'm here to continue to build with other great leaders and parents in this district so we can be the county, one DeKalb that we know we can be. And thank y'all so much for supporting us and being here to listen and learn about our platforms.
Thank you. We're going to move into our questions next. The first question I'm going to start with was one I didn't anticipate we'd have to ask for this forum, but it looks like we're going to be getting a new superintendent, and that is fundamentally the school board's most important job is to hire and, in some cases, fire the superintendent. So we're going to start with Wendy Hamilton. Wendy, what are you looking for in a new superintendent? You have 2 minutes.
What I'm looking for in a new superintendent is somebody with a proven track record who knows how to lead a very dysfunctional district and can help to kind of shine a light on the issues the cultural issues that we have inside of DeKalb County. We have a county right now that is known for retaliation. Our HR department kind of prides itself in making sure that teachers that maybe leak information that are whistleblowers are retaliated against. And we need somebody who is going to put an end to that. Someone who will work with the board, but also will work within the system to change the culture of DeKalb schools, and work with the teachers, and provide better communication. Someone who's ethical.
Thank you. Whitney McGinnis, same question to you. What are you looking for in a new superintendent?
Yeah, so this is a great question. And like you said, I don't think any of us were wanting to be here. When you sent out our Q&A just a couple of weeks ago, I was saying that overall I had been pretty impressed with Superintendent Watson Harris's track record. She came to us during COVID. That was definitely a very difficult situation. She didn't make all the right choices. There were some stumbles, but overall, I thought we were on the right track. And I think that, here in DeKalb, the revolving door of leadership is a huge challenge that we have. 7 superintendents in 12 years. That is not a good track record. And so honestly, I do worry about, just like us running for school board. I think I'm probably not the only one who kind of woke up this week and wondered, am I sure I want to do this? And so I think we're going to have, potentially a challenge in getting a good superintendent. They're going to look at what has just happened here, and it's going to have to be someone who has a lot of experience. For one, we are a big school district. We have a $2 billion budget. So it needs to be someone who, is okay. Someone who has that track record, has that experience. Like Wendy said, relationship building is going to be key in this position, working with the board, that we know can be a very difficult board at times, potentially working with state legislators. I mean, we know now that the state is looking at us.
Thank you.
So they're going to have to, be a political agent as well.
Thank you. Candace McKinley, 2 minutes. What are you looking for in a new superintendent?
Well, I thought we almost got it right with the current superintendent. So let me say that, and I want to be candid and clear that I used to work for the district during the pandemic. So I had the opportunity to interface with leadership and the superintendent as an employee. I worked in the Office of Legal Affairs as in-house lawyer, and also in the Office of School Innovation. So I saw the board working with the superintendent to kind of peel back those layers that Wendy and Whitney were kind of lifting up about retaliation and some culture issues. And that's hard work, and it takes time. And I'm not cheering on, the superintendent by no means, because there's other issues that need to, be handled. But now going forward, if I'm elected, I'm going to look for someone who can have those tough conversations, who can bridge gaps in a relationship builder. Courageous conversations is something that we may talk about, but we don't do effectively. And there we can get coaching around that, because what we're seeing in the community, the board got there over time. And I don't know exactly what is going on inside that inner circle, but hopefully we can see and get a superintendent who's willing to use his or her leadership to, be tough, but also keep our students first, as Stephen said, and focused on bringing our district up to, the level that it should be.
Thank you. Stephen Bowden, same question to you. What are you looking for in a new superintendent? You have 2 minutes.
So as others have said, obviously experience is going to be very important. I mean, I think the decision needs to be made based off of a proven track record, not things like being able to text or their age being a factor in that decision. Just reiterating previous points, it needs to be someone that's focused on our students. I mean, we need to get put our students in a position where they can be successful with their test scores and really be able to focus on learning. So I'd be interested in hearing the candidates' plans to help improve in those areas. But also, I mean, the teachers, it's apparent that the teachers don't think that there's a fair evaluation process currently, and there's prejudice that exists, and it's honestly kind of predatory in nature. And the teachers shouldn't have to worry about that. They should be confident that there's a fair evaluation process, and that's important. The new candidate needs to have a plan to attract and retain our teachers, and that needs to be part of that plan. And they need to have a plan and experience, because obviously the school district right now, it's honestly an embarrassment with the state being involved and having to step in and do things that this board hasn't been able to do to this point. The candidate needs to have experience and have a clear plan. And I'd be very curious to see how they want to work with the state, improve our current situation, and get us moving forward.
Thank you. I see we've got several people in the chat room. If you're having an issue sending us questions, go ahead and send those questions to editor@decatorish.com. That is editor@decatorish.com. I've got my phone right here, and I can check my email so I can ask the questions that way. So our next question, we're going to start with Whitney McGinnis. Whitney, do you think the current school board meddles too much in the day-to-day affairs of the school district? You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, so that is a tough question. I think the school district does meddle, absolutely. And I mean, what we have seen over the course of the last week also, is let me back up for a second. So, there are rules of behavior that govern the board. And I think that's part of what you're asking, so one of those rules of behavior is that the superintendent is the board's employee, and it's then her job to be the supervisor of those that are underneath her. And that's the meddling issue, the idea that sometimes board members go around the superintendent and go directly to a principal or another staff person to get an issue addressed, and that's not the process. And I think what we have seen a lot of over the last couple of weeks is a complete disregard for the process. So, one of the other things about being a board member and about board meetings is that they are supposed to be publicly disclosed, the times of those meetings, the agenda for those meetings, and, starting with Ms. Hill's amendment to kind of reverse the course with the comprehensive master plan, she, like I said, she basically introduced $400 million of spending as an amendment. So it wasn't on the agenda. It was not subject to public scrutiny. It came out later that certain board members knew about her amendment and others didn't. And that is not how the board is supposed to function. That's not the rules of how a board works. And the same thing we saw again with the surprise firing superintendent.
Thank you. Candace McKinley, same question to you. Do you think the school board meddles too much in the day-to-day affairs of the DeKalb County School District? You have 2 minutes.
So I want to couch it like this. You have to be transparent and accountable. And when you take your eye off of that as the leadership, you are not doing your job. And so when you, couch last minute or put forth last minute agenda items, not forthright with parents and teachers, you lack in transparency. And then there's a trust issue that starts to unfold. And we have gotten ourselves here because the transparency and accountability hasn't been seen by our board. So that is a clear indication that the policy platform has not been fully vetted. It indicates to me that some folks may need some training. If I were to get in front of a judge at any point and don't know the decorum, how to utilize my skills as an advocate for my client. I may be, in contempt or otherwise. So we have to get to the point of professionalism that shows through in transparency and accountability, not focused on meddling. That is unprofessional and not what board leaders should be doing. And so hopefully we can move out of that posture and get to the real policy making of what the board should be doing and focus on our finances in terms of accountability as well. And I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Stephen Bowden, same question to you. Do you think the current school board meddles too much in the day-to-day affairs of the school district? You have 2 minutes.
I really do. They vet the superintendent. They solicit applicants. They vet that person. They select them for a reason. So they need to be trusting that that person can handle the day-to-day and make the right decisions in conjunction with the school board. But they really need to it shows a lack of confidence by the fact that they're meddling in each and everything. And perfect example is the firing. The fact that the superintendent didn't even know about the meeting, wasn't invited to be a part of the meeting. There was no discussion. It's unacceptable. Scheduling that meeting, knowing that two board members had conflicts, something needs to be done. Change needs to happen. Like I said, the group needs to work together as one county. It's not a North versus South or a us versus them or anything like that. They need to work together as a team to collaborate and improve the district. And they need to be, a relationship of trust needs to be established so that the candidate that's selected for the superintendent position, like I said, there's a reason that they selected them, and then there needs to be inherent trust that everyone's going to be making decisions with the teachers and the students in mind.
Thank you. Wendy Hamilton, do you think the school board meddles too much in the day-to-day affairs of the school district? You have 2 minutes.
Yes, I think that the school board, what we've seen recently is shining a light on a systemic problem inside of DeKalb County schools. We're seeing a school board that is lacking transparency, firing a superintendent, scapegoating her for repair problems that really shouldn't have. Our schools shouldn't look the way they do. Our teachers, some more than others, depending on what their school leadership looks like, this is what they go through. The district has this culture of secrecy and lack of transparency to basically hide that we're dysfunctional. We've got so many schools that are lacking with basic needs like hand soap, cleaning supplies, proper ventilation. But meanwhile, it's all sunshines and rainbows when it's time to put the kids back to school after the pandemic. This is just indicative of what needs to change inside of DeKalb. It starts at the top and goes all the way down. And this definitely affects our kids. It affects our ability to retain a competent and draw a talented superintendent, as well as to retain and keep talented teachers and school administrators.
Thank you. Our next question, we're going to start with Candace McKinley, and this is actually probably the best person to start with because you work for the district, so you could probably speak to some of this directly. The district has a reputation for being vindictive towards its critics. Do you think this reputation is deserved, and what would you do to change it? You have 2 minutes.
Now that is a very good question. And so let me tread a little lightly. Vindictive? Possibly. Unprofessional? Definitely. So in my experience, and I was in the district again during the pandemic from 2020 to 2021. So I didn't have as much, insider information as others. So I would say as an outsider coming in, I was a newbie. So I was still getting my feet wet. What I can say is that when there were issues, personal issues or otherwise, it was hard for me and others at the admin level and teachers to get support. So when I say unprofessional, I'm saying, as Wendy kind of lifted up, that culture. Why can't I engage the human resources? Why can't I get my question answered quickly? Why can't I know the process to get things done? It's too convoluted from my stance, and too, you have to kind of watch your back kind of thing. And I kind of called it the DeKalb way. I just coined it that. So I was told sometimes this is just the way we do it here. And I'm like, why? I've been trained to be a questioner. I cross-examine folks all day, So with that said, I wouldn't say vindictive, but it shows through that there is lack in processes and unprofessionalism that we need to sort out and help the next superintendent figure out how to put some efficiencies in place so we can be better professionals.
Thank you. Stephen Bowden, same question to you. The district has a reputation for being vindictive towards its critics. Do you think that reputation is deserved, and what would you do to change it? You have 2 minutes.
That's a very strong word, but I mean, from attending school board meetings and seeing what's going on in the media and things like that, I mean, I can see where that reputation has come from, and honestly, I kind of feel that it is that way. I mean, look at the response to the state's involvement. It's to me, it has seemed just immediately defensive, being defensive, and where they should be willing to work with the state and work together and come to the best solution for the school district. The board's first response is to defend themselves. The teachers, throughout their evaluation process, the general consensus that I've seen seems that they feel that it's unfair and unethical, and they're not getting a fair shake. That shouldn't be the case. It should be an ethical process. It should be fair, and the teachers should feel supported. I mean, just simply watching the board interact with themselves. I mean, it's all. I just felt like I was just the last board meeting that I attended. I just felt like they were just sitting there arguing amongst themselves, being critical and disagree. Healthy conflict is a great thing in business. It's a great thing when to create a great collaborative atmosphere, but getting to the point where you're almost publicly fighting, that's not okay. And so what I would do is I would just work together with the team to try and find common ground and really start making decisions for what's best for the district and to improve the current state, the current culture.
Thank you. Wendy Hamilton, same question to you. The school district has a reputation for being vindictive towards its critics. Do you think this reputation is deserved, and what would you do to change it? You have 2 minutes.
Yes, I do. I think in my experience with being an administrator and found one of the founding members of the Coalition for a Safe DeKalb, has definitely proven to me that there is a very vindictive, protective nature. The district is trying to protect its reputation. Teachers that were sharing their valid concerns about safety issues over COVID, lack of HVAC, no soap, admin got into our private group. Our people started sharing screenshots, and those teachers faced retribution. Some of those teachers left the district after the previous school year because of the intimidation they were receiving. The district flat out tells the teachers that not only will we reprimand you like with HR, but we will refer you to the licensing board and you'll lose your license. If you do something like tell a room parent that they don't have hand soap in the classroom. This happened even before the pandemic. I was shocked when my kindergarten class, my daughter's kindergarten class, didn't even have hand soap. The teacher asked for more. The principal turned around and I was like, wait, why don't we have hand soap? the principal turned around and basically was like, oh, she misspoke. And then the teacher had to turn around and lie and say, oh, I misspoke. Those things shouldn't be happening. We need real transparency.
Thank you. Whitney McGinnis, same question to you. The district has a reputation for being vindictive towards its critics. Do you think this reputation is deserved, and what would you do to change it? You have 2 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, so I never want to paint the whole district with one brush. But I think we all can speak to examples. You know, the way that I got started down this path that led me to running for school board was an HVAC issue at my daughter's school. And after we could not get it resolved going through proper channels, I went to the press, and one of the other parents pulled me aside and said, are you worried that they might come after your kid? And I was shocked. I was like, what are you even talking about? I mean, they've known about this. We've tried to get it resolved the right way. And I went to the press. That's my right as a parent, you know, free speech. And yeah, I've seen it happen with teachers too. We had an issue at my daughter's former elementary school where, you know, teachers were, you know, basically had to meet in secret with parents because they were afraid of the principal of that school. You know, HR was not responsive, even though there were documented issues. And obviously what we've seen most recently with, you know, the Druid Hills students and, you know, being threatened with disciplinary action if they participated in a planned walkout protest of the conditions of their school. So yes, there are examples. I do think it is, you know, an unfortunately justified characterization in terms of what you do about it. You know, one of the things about teachers is, again, because of the meddling question, they aren't supposed to go directly to the board. But there's not an ombudsman. There's not a process where if HR is not, you have other outlets.
Thank you. We got to move on to the next question. We're going to take a question from a reader. So the question is, and we're going to start with Stephen Bowden. It says the district identified a core group of at-risk students on which to focus resources: Hispanic students and Black males, English language learners, and students with disabilities. Can you speak to how you will ensure that at-risk populations, specifically Black girls and unidentified, underrepresented, gifted students, receive similar support? Stephen, you have 2 minutes.
Okay. I think programs like this are critically important to the success of the district. I mean, we need to identify students that need additional resources. It is the district's duty to make sure that students like this are supported. So programs need to be created, and whether it's, you know, extra tutoring or specialized learning plans or anything that can really help support these students. And like the person asked, you know, there needs to be methods in place that these students are identified and can get these resources before it's too late. Every single student deserves the same opportunity, and the teachers, the administration, they need to be making sure that they're providing these students the opportunities and allowing them to succeed and learn. And because really, I mean, elementary school, you're setting these students up for their learning process throughout their entire career so that they can become successful middle schoolers, high schoolers, college students, and adults.
Thank you. Wendy, same question to you. This district has identified a core group of at-risk students on which to focus resources, specifically Hispanic students and Black males, English language learners, and students with disability. Can you speak to how you will ensure other at-risk populations, specifically Black girls and unidentified, underrepresented, gifted students, receive similar support? You have 2 minutes.
Well, first, I feel that our schools, in order to efficiently manage and deal with every student, we need to have everybody properly staffed. We are understaffed. We lack subs. We could use a heck of a lot more support staff in terms of parapros and so forth. And we could also use a lot more school-based counselors. I was really hoping with our COVID funds that we would see more in-school counseling in mental health professionals at our schools. Instead, we have high schools like Druid Hills High School that basically had to fundraise, crowdsource to get mental health support inside of their school. This was CARES funds money that could have been used for that. And I feel that with all the infighting that we're doing within the district and the board fighting itself and fighting the superintendent, that we end up leaving a lot of students behind. I know that the push to get kids back into school was to help to kind of equalize the socioeconomic factors, make sure that everybody was safe and so forth. But then when we get them inside the school, it's like, oh, okay, well, they're in the school. That's fine. Let's make sure that they're getting what they need. Let's listen to the parents and actually I would be a board member that would listen to the concerned parents and follow up. I would meddle in that. I would advocate for special needs students because they're so often overlooked. And so often board members, I experienced it myself when I had issues and was concerned about my child's life. I was basically brushed off, follow up, just like talk to Mr. Arnold. And I wouldn't do that.
Thank you. Whitney McGinnis, same question to you. The district identified a core group of at-risk students on which to focus their resources. Those students include Hispanic students and Black males, English language learners, and students with disabilities. Can you speak to how you will ensure that other at-risk populations, specifically Black girls and unidentified underrepresented gifted students, will receive similar support? You have 2 minutes.
Sure. So I do have as one of my platforms diversity, equity, inclusion, and access, because I do think, in DeKalb County, we are a very diverse district. And, I think we all feel like that is a strength that we have. It brings, value to our education system to have these different points of view and life experiences. But it comes with challenges. And we do know that certain groups of students need additional supports. And I think what this question is maybe kind of speaking to is, sometimes we overlook certain groups. There's, I guess, the more obvious at-risk students. But I would approach a question like this as something that would deserve a data-driven response. And so what I mean by that is, I think we can categorize groups of students and that is a helpful way to provide services to them. But I think we also need to be delving into, individual test scores. We do all this testing of students, and in an ideal world, that information is used then to target services to kids who are needing it, even if they don't meet a specific risk category. And I think that's a way that we help those students, prevent those students from falling through the cracks, is, looking at the individual needs of those students. But I would also echo Wendy's response of, we have a teacher shortage, we have a paraprofessional shortage, and it's difficult to provide those support services when you don't have the qualified staff that you need.
Thank you.
Really.
Thank you. Candace McKinley, same question to you. The district has identified a core group of at-risk students on which to focus resources, specifically Hispanic and Black males, English language learners, and students with disabilities. Can you speak to how you will ensure that other at-risk populations, specifically Black girls and unidentified underrepresented gifted students, would receive similar support? You have 2 minutes.
Sure. And everybody contributed to what I have a platform as well in terms of equity with intentionality. So I was part of that core group that identified those students during the pandemic, and we started a data-driven equity audit. So when you don't know exactly how to service special populations, i.e. ESOL, gifted, and also our Latinx community and our Black and Brown children, you have to come up with the factors. So part of this is an equity audit expansion. Even though it was started and identified, we have to continue that work and we have to fund it. So it's two-part. Equity with intentionality means funding. So once we get our factors and we can look at the data, then we can target resources and outline our budget and move the money around to say, if Cross Keys High School needs more support for their Safe Center, this is what we can do there. If Druid Hills needs some more support, as Wendy lifted up for teachers, maybe in the gifted program, we need to do that there. If we have Fernbank and they need more ESOL services, we need to do it there. The only way you can do that is with data. And so we have to expand what equity looks like. We have to really identify it and then act with intentionality with our funds to see the results at the end. So it's compacted, but we have to be intentional, with our resources so that all kids are lifted up at the highest level.
Thank you. Our next question comes from a viewer in the Twitch chat. We're going to start with Wendy Hamilton. Wendy, the question is, do you believe that board members should have children or grandchildren who are students who currently attend a DeKalb County school? You have 2 minutes.
I certainly think that's helpful. My experience as a parent, I feel is what drove me to want to participate in, change, and improve and support the students and teachers of this community without having, as a room parent, I've been inside the schools, I've seen the conditions, I've been able to witness the teachers' interactions. And I feel that that's pretty essential to be a parent. I think is really important to be on the board.
Thank you. Whitney McGinnis, same question to you. Do you believe that board members should have children or grandchildren who are students who currently attend a DeKalb County school? You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is definitely a helpful perspective to have. Would I make it an absolute requirement? No, I wouldn't, because I mean, I think you could have a recent former educator also who maybe didn't have children in the school system, but still had that, very direct, boots on the ground experience in the schools. But to the point, and everyone in this race has children, and, I think it's great. We have 4 of us who have stepped up, and I think that it is a benefit to all of us that we have children in the schools. I was kind of asked a question actually yesterday, that suggested that the conditions at Druid Hills High were a surprise, and how did no one know? And my response in a way was, I mean, we did know. If you're a parent who has a child at the school, you've been to the school, the conditions there are not a shock. And, it's really not that people didn't know, it's that no one responded to the earlier cries for help. And so, yeah, being a parent, talking to teachers as the normal course of promoting your own child's education, those are valuable interactions, and they absolutely help you as a board member. I would also say that we all have a vested interest in the schools because the 4 of us are parents. Yes, we're running as a public service. We want to make our community better, our county better. But we also want our children to be successful and to have a quality education.
Thank you. Candace McKinley, same question to you from a viewer. Do you believe that board members should have children or grandchildren who are students that currently attend a DeKalb County school. You have 2 minutes.
I think it's not a mandate, but an absolute plus. My kids have come home over the years telling me some of the weirdest things, but kids are very informative. They're very intuitive, and we should listen to them more. So I think it's very helpful. I don't want to repeat what my other colleagues have said, but we have seen student advocates be lifted up over the years, especially at Druid Hills High School. Once you teach children advocacy and they see it in you as well, and they kind of just take that on. And so sometimes parents aren't the best person to voice a concern. It is through our young people, and giving them space and giving them voice is powerful. And so having students in the district has been helpful for me. And like Whitney, I mean, it's definitely kept me engaged and concerned over the years, and almost like, oh gosh, I see this stuff and it's been going on for forever. What are we going to finally do about this? Because you don't want your child coming home months or weeks saying, I can't use the bathroom. And especially when you have a young, girl who has, girl issues, they need access, to a bathroom. Something that small could be a hindrance during the day. So not a mandate, but very helpful, because children, young people, they have a voice and they have a lot to say, and we definitely should listen to them.
Thank you. Stephen Bowden, same question to you. Do you believe that board members should have children or grandchildren who are students that currently attend a DeKalb County school? You have 2 minutes.
I think the focus there should be, what is that person's motivation? What's their passion? Why do they want to serve and be a part of it? And for a lot of us, it's because we have kids in the school system. But I mean, it's, as others have said, that there can be other reasons. Former educators. I just reiterating that the focus should be on why. What's that person's motivation for wanting to do it. And I mean, for me, it is my children. My children, my friends' children, I've seen how the system is failing them. So I want to be part of that change for them and to make things better. My son, he's struggling in school right now. He's not getting a lot of support from his school. So I don't want to see other kids having to go through that. My son will come home crying and he doesn't like school. Math is hard. He doesn't like this teacher. And it just really hurts me to see that. And I don't think that any student in any school system anywhere should have that feeling. So just kind of reiterating all the other points that have been made. I mean, it certainly is helpful, because that's what's driving me to want to serve and be there for all the teachers and students in the system.
Thank you. We got time for a couple more questions. I appreciate everybody who's been viewing and who have submitted questions. We are going to start with Whitney McGinnis for this question. Whitney, do you support returning to virtual learning if COVID-19 cases increase? You have 2 minutes.
So I support making our schools safe. I am very, very hopeful that we are past the point of virtual learning. I think, it was necessary to do in the early days of the pandemic. Vaccines were not available. We really didn't know all the ins and outs of COVID transmission. So, we did what we had to do, but the data is in. And virtual learning was not a good model for the vast majority of our students. And concerning to me, virtual learning exacerbated inequalities that we already had in our education system. So students who were already disadvantaged in in-person learning environments suffered even more when we were virtual. But I think that making schools safe means exactly that. And so while I would be very hesitant to return to virtual instruction, I think masks are important. I think surveillance testing is important. I think monitoring trends looking to the CDC. And, one of the things I think the district had right is we knew we had public health experts right here in our county. And so the district, put together its own task force of experts to advise us on how can we keep our schools safe. And so I don't think COVID is over. I think that we could have a resurgence in the fall, but my focus would be on how do we keep kids in school and how do we do that safely?
Thank you. Candace McKinley, same question to you. Do you support returning to virtual learning if COVID-19 cases increase? You have 2 minutes.
Yes, with a caveat. My family experienced COVID significantly. Myself and 5 family members went through it, and I've actually had COVID twice myself, and I'm still having long-term effect of it. So there is a space for virtual learning. My son who graduated, he graduated virtually, and I can say, it was hard for us, and he actually took care of me and my daughter when we both had COVID, and now he is in the Air Force. So he enjoyed, he struggled, but he got through in the virtual space. If he was forced to go back, I don't know if he would have graduated. And I lifted up before that I was part of the Office of Innovation, and we looked at starting an equity audit. And what came out of that is that students wanted to have options other than in person because learning could happen anywhere and anytime. So we actually put together some funds and got some grant dollars and got an impact bus to go around to communities that needed services in terms of broadband support. And they could basically, attach to the bus to get services that way virtually because we didn't want any student not to have access. But on the other side, that's why I said yes with the caveat, looking at all the data and learning from it. And I'm living through COVID and still healing from it in person. It's good for my daughter who's a creative. She can't sit in front of a laptop. And we can create learning spaces. Some call them hubs that could be outside and do, innovative models that other districts have done throughout the country, Oakland, California, Arizona. Different places have thought out of the box, and we have to be forward thinkers for our students.
Thank you. Stephen Bowden, same question to you. Do you support a return to virtual learning if COVID-19 cases increase? You have 2 minutes.
I really don't. Virtual learning, I think, was a huge disservice to our children. To me, in my experience, there's just no replacement for in-person learning. We lost instructional time in virtual learning. They did not receive the same amount of face-to-face time in teaching as they would in an in-person environment. I think we need to see test scores and we still need to see the data, but I think you're going to see a big decline in test scores. Students falling further behind. My son's a perfect example. He had all A's before COVID. His test scores on all his milestones and everything were very high, and he's really struggling in 4th grade. His grades are down. His test scores are down. I've just seen a side of him that I've never seen before. And I heard from several students throughout COVID, it's just why are other school systems going back? Why can't we go back? What's different in DeKalb? So I think for the benefit of our students and to properly set them up for success, in-person learning is the path to move forward. The COVID numbers are, I think the data is proving out that we can figure out a way to get these students in the buildings and keep them safe.
Thank you. Wendy Hamilton, do you support a return to virtual learning if COVID-19 cases increase? You have 2 minutes.
I really don't want to go back to virtual learning, but as a district, we should be preparing our buildings right now for future surges. We do not have a high vaccination rate amongst our students. DeKalb County has maybe about a little over half of the communities vaccinated. We have over 200,000 children that have been orphaned over COVID. And our district, by not being transparent about the conditions in the school and keeping this kind of veil of secrecy, like teachers not being able to disclose whether or not the HVAC has been working or activated in their building. APS put air purifiers in every single classroom. I think the difference between DeKalb not being able to handle being open virtually through the pandemic versus Gwinnett is our facilities. Our facilities, I mean, looking at the comprehensive master plan, I mean, we've got 28 schools that have major HVAC repairs in the works. And also schools like Fernbank, which are amazing. They've had some challenges with their HVAC this year, and the school's 5 years old. Is the school, and the school district does not allow the principal to even share like openly, like that the 405 hallway doesn't have HVAC, and there's also no windows. So we have to get our crap together and get our buildings clean and ventilated and provide masks, and also get vaccine clinics out like Indian Creek Elementary School did to the at-risk communities so that we don't see people dying.
Thank you. So we're going to move into our closing statements. We are at the end of our forum. So we're going to start closing statements with Candace McKinley. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. And thank you everyone who has chimed in today. I've enjoyed the conversation. I learned so much from my colleagues, and you can see all of us are passionate, and that's what it takes. It's going to take a collective effort from parents, teachers, even our students. Like I said, they have a voice, our business leaders, to provide leadership that is professional, that has the skills and the know-how to see stuff that we need to stop at the door and not be afraid to challenge what we see is not right. And so as I started, like, I'm a mom, I'm an educator and an advocate. I have a 3-pronged lens that I could see through, and I have the skills and the acumen coming from a policy and a legal background to bring to the board, to provide that transparency that we so desperately need. It's a tough time, and I almost couldn't sleep last night, and 2 nights now with everything going on. And I even thought, like, maybe I should remove my name off the list, because maybe I could be a better advocate as a lawyer, because some things I thought may have been a little illegal. Then I paused and I prayed. And I came on here today to continue to do what I do best, is to be forward thinking, be thoughtful, be a professional, and not let all my emotions get to me, because this is not about adults. This is about our children. And so I'm here to serve. And as one of my, kind of she-rolls of the world has said, Shirley Chisholm, if they don't give you a seat at the table, you bring a folding chair. So I'm bringing the folding chair, and I'm going to speak the truth and do what's best for our children.
Thank you. Stephen Bowden, you have 2 minutes to make a closing statement.
Thank you. So I'm a DeKalb dad with 3 kids, as I said, and if I'm elected, I'm going to be putting children first. I mean, the school board needs to be making decisions, putting our children first. Parents and teachers, they need to be involved in the process. There doesn't need to be closed door school board meetings. The board needs to be transparent. They need to have parents and teachers and students be included in the process and part of the decisions that are being made. I work for a general contractor, and I have a construction and estimating background. And I mean, our schools need to be updated so that they can drive innovation and excellence for our students. Construction costs in our school system have gotten out of control, and someone needs to be there to police that and validate that and make sure that we're spending our money updating these schools efficiently. And further on that, about the school board, they just need to be transparent and accountable. Financial transparency has fallen off over the past 3 to 5 years, or maybe even further back. But the school board's elected, so their constituents, the students, all the stakeholders, the students, the teachers, the parents, they deserve to know where the money is and how it's being spent. And finally, this board I would work hard to make sure that this board starts working together. It's about the entire DeKalb County School District. It's not about one section here or this school or that school. The entire district deserves to be better.
Thank you. Wendy Hamilton, you have 2 minutes to make a closing statement.
Thank you. As a mother to a child who has special needs, I personally have experienced the struggles that many in the special needs community face when trying to advocate for their child to basically be given the rights under Section 504 and IDEA. Special needs families shouldn't have to be fighting for the rights for their children to have an equitable education. Also on the equity topic, it's hard to know how inequitable our district is without transparency. We need to stop, looking at trying to portray the district as this, rose-colored glasses in order to boost property values. We need to be transparent. And so this way we can know, like, hey, South DeKalb is having issues. Stone Mountain High School doesn't have air. Clarkston High School has a rodent infestation. But if you aren't a part of those communities, you don't know. So if you're up in my area, unless you are in my coalition, you are not hearing what is happening in South DeKalb and how they feel and how inequitable it is. And also in South DeKalb, they're not seeing what's happening and they are not aware fully of what's happening in Druid Hills. We need the district to work together. And in order to work together, we all have to know what's going on. We need transparency. We also need teachers to have a seat at the table, since they are essential to the success of our students. Teachers need to be involved in more the planning process. I even think that teachers need to have the big U word, union.
Thank you. Whitney McGinnis, you have 2 minutes to make your closing statement.
I just wanted to thank you and the Decatur staff again for hosting us. And I wanted to thank my fellow candidates as well. I think whoever wins this seat is going to have a challenging road ahead of them. I am running because I have a proven record of public service, starting with my first job when I was a lifeguard at 15. After graduating from college, I signed up to serve in the Peace Corps, where I taught science and English in Kenya. And for the last 3 years, I've worked as a grants manager, securing more than $5 million to provide housing to families facing the dual trauma of homelessness and domestic violence. If you visit my website, whitneyfordecalb.com, you will find numerous examples where I have successfully advocated for our schools and our community, everything from pedestrian safety and voting rights to lead remediation and teacher morale. Not only am I passionate about our schools, but I have the skills necessary to turn that passion into tangible results. I've lived in DeKalb and spent the last 10 years building relationships with our current school officials, county offices, community groups, and elected leaders. With a degree in public policy, I understand how governments work. And with more than 15 years in the public sector, I've also seen why they fail. DeKalb County Schools needs a board member who is ready to serve and lead on day one. And that is why you should vote for me, Whitney McGinnis, on May 24th.
Thank you. And thank you to all of our candidates who made the effort to show up. In addition to getting involved in public service, public service is that. It's service. It's a sacrifice of your time. It's a sacrifice of time you might otherwise spend with your friends and your families. But it's so important. If anything we've seen in the last couple of weeks, it's so important to have a deep bench in public office, in local office. And, I just thank you all so much for committing to do that. I wanted to say something because I hear about this a lot from viewers who think that, they just kind of want to give up on this district. It's so overwhelming, the problems that we face. And all I want to say is I don't think that these problems are unfixable. I think anything with enough hard work and tenacity can be fixed, but you got to put in the work, and that's what these four people are doing right now. They're putting in the work, they're stepping up, they're willing to do their job, and voters need to do their job by getting informed about these candidates and going out to vote in the May 24th elections. Early voting for that starts on May 2nd. You can find all of our coverage on DecaturishVotes.com. We're coming out with an extensive voter guide, so you should check that out. If you like what we're doing, if you appreciate our efforts to bring transparency and accountability to this school district and to all of our local governments, please go and visit supportmylocalnews.com. That is supportmylocalnews.com. That pays for everything. That pays for the host for our website. It pays for our domain names. It pays for our reporters who can go and spend hours at these meetings and talking to sources, producing stories that help us to promote transparency and accountability in our local government. So again, if you appreciate what you're doing, if you want us to continue doing that, please visit supportmylocalnews.com and become a paying subscriber of Decatur.com today. This is the Decatur.com Twitch forums. Our next forum is going to be with District 4 candidates, and that's going to be at 11 a.m. So we're going to see you then. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for joining us.